Guys, we're back for episode 3 of the SCX10-II kit build. Today's topic is going to cover mostly wheels, tires, and some body details. Now, I wanted to install the new wheels and tires that I plan to use on this truck now because I want to make sure that I've got the clearances and things like that I need before I start choosing bumpers and all of those other details that I'm going to need for this body. But I want to make sure that they clear properly for these new tires that I'm running. I chose to run the Pitbull Rock Beast XL tire, the new 1.9. This tire is big. I don't know whose ruler they used when they put 4.75 on the side of these tires, as these things are a little bit closer to 5 inches than they are 4.75. The old standard Rock Beast tire was always one of my favorites, but as time went, they just started to feel a little bit small. The tires that come on the SCX10-II measure about 4.5 inches. I was thinking that they were closer to 4.75, but they're about 4.5. So these tires, while I like the new tire, and these are actually a really capable tire off-road, but I just wanted a different look. I've always liked the Pitbulls, so that's what I wanted to go with. This new Pitbull tire is their Alien compound. They feel like a good tire. The compound feels pretty good at this point. I'm excited to run them. So to mount these wheels up, I chose the Vanquish 1.9 Method 105. This wheel is 1 inch wide rather than the typical 0.8 inch wide. It's wider to the outside, so it doesn't affect any of the clearances on the inside of your wheels. I decided to use a 350 hub to start with. We'll see exactly how that works, how everything fits, and how I feel about it overall. So with 2 of the tires mounted already, I can already tell where I'm going to have issues. Now the front is where all of those issues are going to be. In the rear, I don't think I'm going to have any problem. I have the body trimmed pretty much right to the fender lines that are predetermined with this Proline Toyota Hilux body, but in the front. Again, I used the 350 hub, but when this wheel is turned full lock and then as it starts to articulate up, I am going to start rubbing just slightly that inner rocker panel that comes stock with the new SCX10-II. So it's going to need a little bit of trimming on that to get full clearance. Now on the driver's side, we've got the integrated receiver box that we're also going to have to make sure that we trim that but not get into that receiver box. I do think that there's going to be enough room to do that without going to a wider hub. While a 475 would probably look just fine, I'm going to start with the 350 and see how that works. Another thing to note is that I have already trimmed off the front Lexan bumper that was molded into this body. Now that's leaving me a pretty decent bumper gap between the bumper cross brace in the front of this chassis and that Lexan body. All of that is going to get resolved when I go to a new custom bumper on the front of this. For right now, I'm mounting up these tires with the included foam. The foam that comes in the new Pitbull XLs is firm. Much firmer than most tires you'll see out there. The new Axial tires actually come with a pretty decently firm foam, but the new Pitbulls are even firmer than that. However, I do like a pretty firm foam, and as long as the compound works well, it should keep this a nice predictable tire without getting a ton of sidewall roll. With a tire this tall, you need a firm foam, at least on the inner portion of it, so you don't end up with that tire rolling completely under and becoming very unpredictable, especially in off-camber situations. What I haven't decided yet is if I'm going to go with a prefabbed option or if I'll work on building my own. There's going to be plenty of options available that you guys can pick up and bolt right on. Anywhere from a slightly modified Axial Dingo bumper works really well with this Toyota body, or the number of custom bumpers that you can get from people like Scalar Fab, who I've used mainly in the past. So I'm going to move forward quickly, get the other 2 tires mounted up and put on this truck, and then we'll talk about another detail that we're going to handle with this new Proline Toyota body. For those of you who haven't seen before how quickly the Vanquish wheels mount a tire, I'll go over that really quickly just to show you exactly how the 3-piece beadlock type system works. So at this point, I've got the tires and wheels all mounted up on this truck, and I'm pretty happy with the look overall. I'll get through the clearance issues, and then I'm really looking forward to figuring out the bumpers that I'm going to use on this truck. One other thing that I wanted to touch on today was dealing with the body, and it wasn't just the bumpers. It was actually the interior. Now, I'm not a big 3D full depth build your own styrene interior guy in general. While I appreciate a lot of the things that those guys do, it's just not usually how I like to run cars. I'm just not as concerned about that most of the time, unless I have a build that I'm really focusing that way. But what I wanted to look at was the options that are more of a drop-in option for this, and those are going to be the Axial interiors. So here in front of me, I have 3 examples of interiors that Axial makes. Now, the one that I don't have here that is a separate interior is the original Wraith interior, which was the deep pan with the separate seats and everything. And while that was a really nice interior for the Wraith and all, that is probably not going to be something that is going to fit this style well with where that transmission is and all the other details. But these 3 options I am going to look at as far as how they fit in this Proline Hilux body, how they mount, how the size compares to the body and with the truck. So the first example that I have over here is an unpainted version from the Axial Wraith Spawn. Now this one is a little bit narrower than the Bomber or the Yeti. It does have a nice depth to it, but it doesn't have a lot of length to it. Now, I think that issue will come with the extended cab nature of this Proline Hilux cab. The other thing is that this is a wide cab, and the Wraith interior is not that wide. So I can make up a little bit of width with this just by centering it. It'll have a decent look. But I really don't think that the Spawn is going to be the right one for this body. Now, it is hard to tell from the video there. I'll try and get you a close-up, but I've probably got 1.5 inches or better of actual gap between the one side and the door if I've got the other side butted all the way against it. So even if it was centered, I don't think that it's going to look right. Also, the Spawn version doesn't have a very deep dash, so that also is a hindrance as to how I can cheat the body forward and backwards in the cab to try and make everything look decent. So right away, I'm going to rule that Spawn interior out of question. These 2 options are the ones that I think I'll take into serious consideration. I have the stock Yeti interior and a stock Bomber interior. They are fairly different both in scale, width, length, and proportions of certain areas of the actual pieces. The Bomber has a nice, wide, long dash. That, I think, is going to be a big plus. And the scale of the driver figures is a little bit larger, as well as it's got more depth to it, as meaning that from the shoulders down, there's more human-like molding to this one than there is the Yeti. The Yeti looks like they're, up to their, just under their pecs in water almost. There's not a whole lot of depth beyond that. It's just a flat surface. Where the Bomber version actually goes all the way down. You can see the upper portion and lower portion of the legs both. And I think that that gives it a little bit better depth in general. Now, overall length, the Bomber has it beat by probably 1 inch. Another check on the side of the Bomber. The one thing, though, that the Yeti has over the Bomber is overall width. The Yeti interior is about a 1/2 inch wider than the Bomber interior. After doing a quick test fit of all 3 interiors and then mocking up both the RR10 and the Yeti interior, I am going to run the RR10 Bomber interior. The longer dash allows me to position the figures more closely to where I would like, and the extra room behind the figures that normally covers up some of that shock tower detail on the Bomber works well to cover up the extra cab portion of this body. Even though it's got a little bit of gap on each side, it's still going to work pretty well, especially once we get some paint and stuff on this body. So I'm actually looking forward to running this little interior setup. Should be super easy. As far as the final mounting method I will be using for this interior, I'll get to that a little bit later on. The front is going to be the only part that I'm not 100% positive on. The rear part, I'm just going to make a simple angle bracket that allows me to bolt the back part of the interior down with the two-piece bed and cab system. With the new wheels and tires mounted on the truck and my new interior mocked up into position, that's going to conclude today's episode on my SCX10-II kit. We've got a lot more to go on this truck. I'm excited for how it's going so far. I'm looking forward to a lot of the other parts that I plan to put on here. So with that, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on episode 4.